The NFL scouting combine is underway in Indy, and look at all these people who you're going to hear from on our show. Plus, you won't believe what GM says they're all in. Hint, it's not Jerry Jones. You can see all of those faces. We're going to bring you that and so much more coming your way right here on NFL Live. Glad you're with us and welcome to the show. Mel Kiper Jr., Louis Riddick here. Matt Miller will join from a bit in Indy. We're all headed to Indy this week, but new on NFL Live, want to dive right in, guys. Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni had some interesting thoughts on the future of wide receiver A.J. Brown with the Eagles. Our Kimberly Martin asked about him this afternoon.
Nick, you've said that you want A.J. Brown on the team. Great teammate, great player, but nothing's guaranteed. Can you envision this offense without him, though?
He has meant so much to our football team these past 4 years. And like I said, I've always said I've never hated my relationship with him and the relationship that I have with him. And it's been awesome going to work with him, going to battle with him over these past 4 years. And, we're at a point that, we want to keep good players around. Like, it's not at a point. That's what they always want to keep good players around. And so always excited to have him on the football team and look forward to continuing that relationship. I know I want to continue that relationship. I know he wants to continue that relationship, and excited about that.
Okay, so Louis, do you think A.J. Brown will still be an Eagle, though, when week 1 arrives?
Yeah, I really think this is a toss-up. This is really up in the air. There's just too much, well, this is what we want. This is what ideally we'd like to have. We're not in the business of getting rid of, quality players, premium top-line players. Well, of course not. We all know that. We all know that you'd like to have good players. But what we all know also is that there is something in terms of fit, chemistry, culture, whatever word you want to put on this, that just is not working here. That it's constantly every week, once you get into the, really the depth of the season with Philadelphia, that this relationship between this player and this organization, this player and the quarterback, this player and the head coach, whatever it is, just seems to always be in a state of turmoil, always is in a state of discussion, so to speak. And we obviously have to discuss it. Usually when it gets to that point, the culture and the fit supersede the talent on the football field and what this man can do from you between the white lines. And even that starts to take a hit because the culture and the fit just isn't what it needs to be. And we saw that play out this year. So to answer your question, I wouldn't bet on him being there this year. I would bet that A.J. Brown is somewhere else.
Mel, you have the Eagles in your latest mock going with the tight end. If A.J. is on the move, could you see Philly, though, maybe switching up, going wide out with pick 23?
Laura and Lou, this is interesting because if you go back to A.J. Brown when he left Tennessee, what did they say when he went to Philadelphia? Oh, we're going to bring in Treylon Burks, and Treylon Burks is going to pick up right where A.J. Brown left off. It didn't happen. But what's the difference? Howie Roseman and the Eagles and that personnel department, they draft exceptionally well. So A.J. Brown has moved. And I know Buffalo, I'm sure Josh Allen says, hey, come on up here with me, right? If that happens where he's moved, the Eagles have a lot of confidence that they can make up for that loss, whether it's a Denzel Boston out of University of Washington in the first round. This is a ton of receivers. You can draft a Chris Bell out of Louisville, maybe in the second, third round. He's a first rounder, but because of the knee injury, he gets pushed down. They can invest in a guy like that. The Campbell out of Alabama last year who was injured. Look what kind of rookie year he had. There's a Jordan Tyson drop down, and they move up maybe to get him, the wide receiver out of Arizona State, who has a durability concern. What happens there? It's like the Eagles, the personnel department is so strong there. The culture in terms of they know what they can do, that they do move them. I think they are confident they can fill that void. In this draft, it works out really well because the deepest and strongest position in this draft by miles is wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, certainly so many options. You named a few of them there, Mel. And like you said, Howie Roseman, no stranger to figuring these things out and somehow finding somebody that everyone said maybe they expected it, maybe they didn't. Either way, it works out. They end up at the top of the NFL. All right, new on NFL Live, Kimberly Martin spoke with new Falcons head coach Kevin Stefanski on his quarterback situation earlier today. Listen to this.
So, Kevin, earlier today, your GM, Ian Cunningham, mentioned that you guys were going to release Kirk Cousins on the first day of the league year. Is Michael Penix going to be ready by week 1? And if he's not, what is the plan at quarterback?
Yeah, all things we need to work through. And as Michael knows, the most important thing for him right now is to rehab. And he's doing a great job. He's in there every single day, doing everything in his power to get ready. Timelines and those type of things. We're in February. We'll deal with those when appropriate.
All right, answered like a true head coach who's not really going to give us much. But Lewis, Penix has a lot of health questions ongoing still. You think he's the guy for Atlanta moving forward?
No, personally, I don't. I understand. Look, you nailed it. Look, obviously, Kevin's trying to kind of buy himself some time. He's saying, hey, look, we'll work through that. He's just trying to get healthy. We're just going through our process, whatever other buzzword that you want to use. The fact of the matter is, though, they don't have anybody healthy and or on their roster under contract that they could line up right now and play a regular season game with and win a game. Now, I understand that we're still in February and we're just about to start the new league year. But we're talking about the most important position on the roster. And we're talking about the guy who's coming back, having a long, extensive injury history. And we're talking about a whole new regime here. And we're talking about a guy who's running the personnel department in Matt Ryan, who is a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. He's not going to go into the season with these kind of questions. I think they are going to be in the market for a veteran signal caller. I think they're obviously going to look at the draft and see if they could find some kind of value there. But you're going to tell me like a guy like Malik Willis wouldn't make sense in Kevin Stefanski's offense, considering the offense that he's just coming from in Green Bay and the carryover it would have in Atlanta? Matt Ryan's going to make a big move here because he knows how important the position is.
Yeah, it's a good point. And we're going to put Malik Willis on a lot of teams until he's on an actual team because he's a good fit in a lot of different places. More new sound today as the entire league is speaking at the Combine. Ravens GM Eric DeCosta talked about the contracts for center Tyler Linderbaum and Lamar Jackson.
I have spoken to Lamar about a lot of different things over the last month. He's been very engaged. As I said, he was a big value to us in the coaching search. But we'll continue those conversations moving forward. Tyler's a guy that I have tremendous respect for. Obviously he's proven to be, in my opinion, the best center in the league. We've been having conversations. We've had conversations since the end of the season. And at this point in time, we've made him a market-setting deal offer. And hopefully we can get something done with him between now and the start of the new league year.
Okay, as you might expect, they know what this guy deserves in Lamar Jackson. He said market-setting deal. DeCosta sounds pretty confident, Lewis, in getting that new deal done with Lamar. How do you see this new contract playing out, though, for Lamar in Baltimore?
Yeah, this is all about relationships again, right? Especially considering that Lamar is the one who negotiates his contracts. And we know that it hasn't always gone smoothly in terms of the lines of communication between the Ravens and Lamar. This is going to be about Eric DeCosta and Lamar getting on the phone, having regular discourse and dialogue, trying to arrive at a contract that obviously represents what Lamar's fair value is, and we know it's awful high. It's right at the very top, while at the same time giving them some cap space to where they can go out and continue to try and build out this roster around him that, quite honestly, especially on the defensive side, needs an overhaul. So that's going to be important. And it's important for them to get this done so Lamar has a clear mind to go ahead and establish that relationship with his new offensive coordinator in Declan Doyle, which is probably the most important relationship that needs to be really nurtured and grown amongst all the teams in the NFL this year. Because the reason why things changed in Baltimore is primarily to try and get them to take the next step. And that next step involves Lamar and his ability to lead this football team.
Yeah, the centerpiece, of course. And as it currently stands, Lamar is set to count at $74.5 million against the salary cap this season. That's the second highest in the NFL. That's why what Lou's talking about there, they want to restructure some things. All right, Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock draft was released today. Mel has the Raiders taking Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza, no surprise overall. Raiders GM John Spytek talked to our Kimberly Martin earlier today.
You know, there is a quarterback here, Heisman Trophy winner, national champion, that is projected to land in Las Vegas. But what have you liked about Fernando Mendoza's game thus far, and what are you hoping to see this week?
Well, we're just excited to get a chance to sit with him for the first time. You know, all these guys really at the Combine, we haven't had a chance to spend really any personal time with them, and so it's one of my favorite parts of the Combine to sit with these guys for 18 minutes, the speed dating round. And we're just anybody that comes in, we're looking for them to be themselves and show us who they are and have an authenticity to them and see if it makes sense for them to be a Raider.
John, you said a few moments ago that you expect Maxx Crosby to be a Raider. Does that mean you are completely ruling out any trade possibilities involving him?
I don't rule out anything in this league. You know, I mean, the changes all the time, but my expectation is Max is a Raider. He's too good of a player, and we value him too much.
Okay, but the key was he wasn't ruling it out. So here's the key also. When it comes to Fernando Mendoza, I think we all agree should be the #1 overall pick, and that makes a lot of sense. But how do they surround him with the talent that he needs to have success? So, Lewis, that question, do you think it's time for Vegas to move on from Maxx Crosby with the intent of getting some of that support for Mendoza?
I think, John answered that question, right? He said, we're not ruling it out. But so what he's saying is, if you want him, come get him, but you're going to pay. You're going to pay up because he knows that his team is devoid of talent. He knows that he needs, well, look, if Maxx Crosby isn't on the roster, he could take any one of the 11 positions and upgrade it on the defensive side. And the only way you can do that, it's not like teams just give you players. You got to go select them. And the only way you can select them is if you get draft picks. And I'm sure Clint Kubiak is sitting there going, hey, look, I'm the new guy on the block. John, you're in your second year as the GM. This is a hard reset for our team. Of course, we don't want to give away good players like Maxx Crosby. He's the quintessential Las Vegas Raider. I was going to say Oakland Raider because that's what I was, but he's the quintessential Raider. You don't want to let those guys go, but this is a business, man. There's a salary cap. You only have a fixed amount of assets to work with, and the only way you can change that and acquire more is you got to give up something to get something. And they may have to give up Maxx Crosby in order for them to look down the road, be a contending team. I wouldn't rule it out. As a matter of fact, I would bet on that happening more than him staying there because of what they need, Laura.
Yeah, and you think about other teams that may have a hole to fill. Maxx Crosby comes in and busts through any hole that needs to be filled. He's so good. Mel, is Mendoza a lock at #1? I'm not talking about the talent. We know that's great, but could some other team swoop in maybe and try to get him?
No, they may try, but they will be unsuccessful. This is a special player, in my opinion. I think the Raiders are fortunate. They have the #1 pick, obviously, because they have a guy sitting there. If they were picking 2 like the Jets would love to have Mendoza, but they're picking second, not first, because this kid is a guy that just win baby quarterback. That's all he did this year. At Cal, he was sacked 41 times. He went and improved in that aspect, only 18 times during the regular season. At Indiana, the leadership, the toughness, they like a Raider. Talk about Raider Nation. They should love this pick because they know that once you surround him up front on the O-line, Brock Bowers is special. Ashton Genty, get him some running room to complement the quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. Build up that roster. You have the right quarterback in a division with Bo Nix and Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert in the AFC. You got to close that gap, and Mendoza will be the right man to do it once the personnel around him improves.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes you say, all right, so then who's going to get Maxx Crosby? Because they need to do this, and they need to make sure they get as much as they can from Maxx Crosby with the intent of supporting Fernando Mendoza and company. Love it, you guys. We're just getting started here on NFL Live.